Here he comes. I'm not good at intros. I can't do intros. Our intro guy is not with us. But the golden boy is here to give us the Midas touch.
That's right, baby.
Yeah.
That's right.
Welcome. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. How are you?
We're a little fired up tonight. We didn't do the show on Tuesday. I forget why now. Oh, my kids were going back to school. That was the first night, so I kind of said need to crowbar them into their beds so they didn't drive me nuts. So we're fired up. There's a lot to talk about wrestling. Football's starting tonight.
That's right.
And we have you on. So
That's right.
that's great. I'm just gonna open up my full notes here. For anyone who hasn't ever seen you, I first saw you Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. I then saw you, I believe, on New Japan Strong. And then I also saw you recently on NWA 73. You give me, correct me if I'm wrong, like an old school vibe. You give me, how do I want to say it? Like an 80s vibe, maybe.
Sure.
I'm dating myself. Dustin Rhodes, we were talking about Wyndham's
Barry
earlier.
Windham.
Barry Wyndham. You need a glove.
Yes,
no
sir.
glove?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. You need
Or a
glove.
cast like Bob Orton.
Yeah. Just wear it all the time.
Right.
And I love that about you. And so do you enjoy older wrestling? Because you're a young fella.
Right. Right. So, well, first off, thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah.
You know, I appreciate it. I always love to take some time to speak to you guys and be able to connect with the audience in a different type of medium, you know, versus professional wrestling. So glad to be here. I'm fired up too. A lot of big things coming down the pipeline. But to answer your question, yes, I am a big fan and have a deep love for I would say maybe the 60s through the 80s era of professional wrestling. Now, I didn't grow up watching, 60s through the 80s. It was a love that kind of developed as I got into the industry, right? So, I've got a lot of modern day inspirations, but I would say the Golden Boy character as a whole is based off of exactly as you mentioned, that 80s, 70s style of professional wrestling. I think they tell some of the best stories. And so that's what really captured my attention.
You said it right. The Golden Boy, that character fits perfectly with what the NWA is trying to portray and put out there now. So yeah, for sure. You said something that who was it, Vanessa? It was oh my gosh. This is why we're not very professional. Who was the other Championship Wrestling from Hollywood guy?
Will All Day.
No, yes, Will All Day, yes. The what was his name? Old school guy. It doesn't matter. It will come to me. It will come to me. But that's down the road.
But you digress.
I digress. Sorry.
No, you're fine.
So I do that a lot sometimes. So
don't worry, you and I both.
At a young,
I'm doing it now.
Hey, this show is the worst wrestling show on Twitch. The most unprofessional. Sometimes we don't even talk wrestling, and we're not going to talk wrestling because you're a drummer, right?
That is correct. That is correct.
Yes.
R.I.P. to my inspiration there, Slipknot's former drummer. Do rest in peace. One of my favorite drummers of all time. Of course, you've got the Neil Pearts and whatnot, but the person that really gave me my love for music, Joey Jordison.
Joey Jordison. Rest in peace. My favorite drummer of all time. I guess I would have to say I'm gonna go with Dave Grohl, even though I feel like it's a cop out at times, but he's very good on the drum.
Look, he's still around today making music, and he's a perfect example of what we were just talking about, right? Somebody that was making music and a different generation that's kind of transcended the generations all the way till today, for a variety of different bands. So I think that's a great pick.
Yeah, for sure. We'll probably get back to wrestling, or not
I would say
wrestling.
drummer Tommy Lee was always my favorite.
Tommy
drummer.
Lee was very good.
Oh,
Underrated,
Tommy Lee, okay.
actually, probably.
It's a good word there. Yeah, underrated.
I did remember the guy's name. It was Levi Shapiro.
Oh, Levi, yes.
Levi, very old school guy. And he said something. You said something that made me think of him. He like fell in love with like Attitude Era guys, Triple H, people like that. HBK, I think he might have brought up. And then he wanted to know who inspired them, and that's how he went back even farther as well. So who was it? You're a young kid, roughhousing with your brothers, maybe watching Raw. Who was it that attracted you?
Well, I mean, you painted a perfect picture. I mean, that's how I came across wrestling. I was telling the story a million times, but I was in my living room flipping through the channels, and my brother was like, "Oh, check this out, ooh, 9 o'clock Monday Night Raw, not supposed to be up. You got to go to school tomorrow," as you mentioned. And turn on the television, and I see one Triple H just putting the beat down on a Kofi Kingston, on a very young Kofi Kingston at the time.
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, here's this guy. He's tan, he's jacked, he's got my favorite color, green. I mean, shoot, who could ask for more? I want to do this, right? Who wouldn't want to do that? The fans were cheering a big baby face at the time. So Triple H was the first person that really brought me my love for professional wrestling. And I still model a lot of what I do in the ring after, him. I think he's the game for a reason.
Yeah.
All around one of the best professional wrestlers. But outside of Triple H, I'd say Chris Jericho was one of my favorites as well. And then an angsty teen of me, CM Punk. Tended to align with the CM Punk when he was super white hot during the Summer of Punk. Became a big fan favorite of mine. And so those are probably my top three. If I just had to name a couple more modern era wrestlers that the fans are more familiar with, that kind of brought me my love for the sport.
You said student of the game there with Triple H. I would classify you as a student of the game because you're going back, you're learning, you're fine tuning, taking what you can from the past, using it today in the styles we see today. I mean, you're in things like New Japan, NWA, and Championship Wrestling from Hollywood all have a different vibe. You got your strong style and this and that. How do you balance all that? It's
tough. I have conversations with Fred Rosser, who's become a great friend of mine and a good mentor, I should say, in just the industry. And, we have those same struggles where, at the NWA, you're wrestling a different type of style versus New Japan. And having to reconcile those differences, it's tough. I think naturally I perform at National Wrestling Alliance along the lines of what they're looking for, just based on, as you mentioned, kind of like my background and the Golden Boy character. But that character can evolve, and he does when he steps through New Japan. You know what I mean? New Japan is very sports-based, very hard-hitting. As you mentioned, strong style is a great way to put it. But I think it makes me a more well-rounded wrestler to be able to do both and to be able to work on both. And strong gives me that opportunity and that stage to really kind of perfect the craft in an area that I haven't had a chance to. Whereas I would expect, the NWA to align with the wrestling that you see on Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, or maybe a local promotion that you might catch me at versus, a New Japan.
Yeah. Awesome. Before you basically dove in and started training at a young age, you were big into bodybuilding. You're still probably big into bodybuilding, but you did it competitively back then?
I had aspirations to do it competitively, but it wasn't until recently that I competed in my first show. So say it was June. I wish if I would have known, I would pull out the good medal for you to show you the my little trophy of being able to compete competitively. But was able to do that, and right here in California with my personal trainer, Elite Fitness Training, and Jared, they worked with me for 2 years. It was a long, grueling process, but I was able to get on stage, and I had so much fun. I had so much fun just competing against myself, trying to make myself look better, and so I was able to take home some gold there. But I'll take home some more maybe next year. I'm about burnt out for the year on bodybuilding shows.
Well, you're the golden boy, so you're gonna need more gold. And I know Hammerstone does stuff like that, does bodybuilding. I know Camille does bodybuilding. How much eating is involved in that? Forget the training in the comparison to wrestling. How much you eat?
Oh my gosh. Well, right now I'm eating it's funny because I talk to a lot of guys about it because bodybuilding and professional wrestling still kind of go hand in hand.
Okay.
So a lot of guys are asking how much protein, how much carbs, and I kind of get ribbed backstage because I could break it down all to you in a science. That's how in tune I am with my nutrition. 3,500 calories, 250 grams of protein, 300 carbs, and 100 grams of fat. That's what I'm on right now, but I'm trying to put on some size versus before showtime. I was eating only 1,200 calories, 3 eggs in the morning, 2 protein shakes, a small lunch, and barely anything to eat for dinner to starve myself to lean out. It's not what everybody expects it to be.
Yeah.
Getting into bodybuilding, I thought, I need to be this big, muscly behemoth, but when I actually got into the science of the sport, I realized it's not about being the biggest. It's about being the most lean and, cut and defined that you can get in. It's 2 different extremes. It's really tough, and it's really tough to wrestle on too, especially when you're prepping for a show.
Huh. I never even thought of it that way. I understood cutting the body fat, getting that down to basically nothing. But to have that be challenging to wrestle at that time is interesting.
Yeah, it's tough. You're running on 1,000, 1,200 calories, whereas you should be eating, 2,000 plus. So no energy, depleting yourself constantly, still wrestling, still working out. It just doesn't go hand in hand. Your body can only take so much.
You went right into training for wrestling, just like a lot of people did right out of high school.
Right.
In Cincinnati. Now you're out in LA. There's a difference.
A little bit.
Not just a time zone.
No, not just a time zone. Just a little bit, just a tiny bit.
Here's we'll go off the script here. What's the gas prices like out there in LA? We were talking about gas prices earlier.
Great question. Where are you guys located at?
I'm in New York, and Vanessa's up in Canada.
Okay. So then you're probably pretty close to us. I can't speak for the Midwest, but when I was in Ohio, maybe $1, $2 a gallon. Midwesterns, correct me if I'm wrong, but I just got gas earlier today for $4.50 a gallon, and that was cheap.
Wow,
that was
I'm
cheap
still
for
paying
me.
more.
Yeah, she's paying more.
That's what I was going to say. You guys up there on the East Coast know the struggle of us here on the West Coast.
Yeah,
only land divides us.
Only land. That's interesting. Yeah, I don't even know how we got on the topic of gas prices, but we did. Kirk Shepard in the chat says $2.99 a gallon today. I don't really know because I just pay for it. I just go and put it in my tank and then take my money, which I never see. So does it really exist? I don't know.
Well, kind of like tracking your calories. If you don't put it in a log, did you ever really eat that piece of cake?
That's true.
I don't know. I don't know what to tell you, bud.
way to bring it back. Wow. Good job. So you started in Cincy. You went out to LA, but you got some wise words from a good brother. From a good brother, which I found very interesting. What were those words that he told you?
Well, as you mentioned, there's a big difference between Cincinnati and Los Angeles. And heck, I'm sure Kirk in the chat could tell you.
Yeah.
I trained at the Northern Wrestling Federation under Roger Ruffin. And Roger taught me the basics of professional wrestling. He taught me how to wrestle. And it wasn't until I met Carl Anderson through Roger and through Kirk that I actually got an idea for what it meant to expand my brand. And what Chad said to me was, you can stay here and it'll be great. You'll enjoy wrestling in all the UAW halls and the fair shows galore. But if you really want to do something, if you really want to not just do something in wrestling, but do something with your life, just kind of get out of your bubble, then you need to go somewhere. What he said, you need to go somewhere. He couldn't tell me where to go. He's like, I can't tell you where to go. I went to California, so I might be able to introduce you to some people out there like Jesse Hernandez or Dave Marquez, but you just need to go somewhere. And so, I did what any normal 20-year-old does at the time and just grabs whatever he can, puts it in his car, and leaves in 2 weeks. So I just packed it on up and moved out here. I didn't have a plan. I didn't have, a whole lot of money to my name. I just kind of drove the car out here and saw what happened. And I went through some hard times, but here we are. It worked out for the best.
Yeah, for sure. You mentioned David Marquez, obviously Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. What resonates the most with you from David Marquez and all your experience in Championship Wrestling from Hollywood?
Dave gave me a platform to learn television wrestling.
Yeah.
Dave gave me a platform to help discover who the Golden Boy is, but to do so in the light that was going to pay dividends later, right, for New Japan or for NWA. It's not something that you can get everywhere. And just the footage that Dave produces in and of itself is a telltale sign of what he's teaching us there. So without Dave, I wouldn't have had that experience. There's a good chance I might not have excelled at the level that I felt like I did if it wasn't for working at Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. So, it was working with those guys, working with an Andy Yuma, working with the Dave Marquez, working with Billy Trask and, Nick Banana and the people in the back that were producing, cutting, and editing the show. One thing that I learned from, Punk and some of his promos was he wanted to be the best, whatever that meant. Right. Yep. He talked about sitting in production. He talked about doing commentary, and that's a shoot. And that's something that I took personally, So when I went to Hollywood, I didn't sit and lounge around in the locker room. I was sitting in the production booth constantly after my matches. I was sitting in the music booth, learning how to do music and how to, how they're doing angles and television shots, because I wanted to learn it all. And I think that was one of the biggest things that I could have done to learn as much as I did there.
Yeah. Student of the game, like I said. You're there. You're doing it.
learned it from the best in Triple H.
Learned it from the best. Cerebral assassin.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You got some events coming up. Raise the Bar Wrestling.
Yes, sir.
October 14th. I did look to see who you were wrestling, and then I forgot. So who are you going to be giving the Midas touch to?
And I'll give it to any one of them. We're in a fatal 4-way match. Got Ray Rosas, who is a familiar foe of mine through Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. A Fidel Bravo, who I've never wrestled, but I've stood face-to-face with, shared a locker room with in EWF and CWFH. And then you've got myself, yours truly, and then a student of Ray Rosas, Danny Devine, coming out of MPW. So it is a fatal 4-way match. And like I said, I'll give the Midas touch to all of them. The Golden Boy does not care either way. He does not discriminate.
No, and we got the links in there for all that fun stuff. Also, the tapings for New Japan in Texas are right around the corner, I believe.
Yes, it's September 24th. I'll be there.
Yeah, that'll be great to see.
That'll be good.
And we had the whole pandemic. We had the whole, and you've done studio wrestling, and wrestling to the millions and millions at home in front of the camera. But you have been in front of fans. It's back, in most places. What is that feeling like now to you?
At first I kind of welcomed the idea of studio wrestling.
Yeah.
And Nick Aldis put it such a great way when I wrestled him at Primetime Live, or they call it NWA Shockwave was what we filmed at Primetime Live. But Nick said with studio wrestling, the fans now have the opportunity to if they like what they see, they can watch. If they don't, They could change the channel. No different than, television wrestling, but the difference is that we're going to go out there and put on a show, right? And we don't have to worry about whether or not the fans receive or don't receive the match, for example. And that taught me a valuable lesson in the sense of television wrestling, right? Because when you wrestle on television, they're interacting with the crowd, but you just mentioned that there might be 60,000 people in that arena, but there's 6 million people on the other side of that lens, right? So you have to learn to kind of play to both. And where I was coming from was a place of playing to the crowd almost a bit too much versus to the camera. So I learned that. But by the time COVID kind of started to wrap up and fans started to come back, the energy is totally different. And I realized how much I missed and needed that fan interaction to be the best performer that I can be, because the fans really do give the energy and the life to what we do. I think that's what makes professional wrestling so unique as compared to, football or soccer or baseball.
Yeah. I agree. And I enjoy studio wrestling. I think sometimes because you don't get the highs and the lows of the crowd, like it doesn't sway your opinion. If I enjoy it, I'm watching it, I keep it on the channel. And I think that's I think what you've learned at Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, the production side, putting on a TV show, I think that stuff, and then wrestling in front of no crowds is invaluable and can only make you better or anybody better now that you're taking that, putting that in front of fans and pushing that out. So yeah, I look forward to all that. What, you got anything else? You got Raise the Bar, you got the tapings.
We've got Raise the Bar coming up on the 14th. I'm doing a couple shows here this weekend here in Southern California that won't be televised, more for the local crowds. And then New Japan Strong on the 24th. We've got as you mentioned, Raise the Bar in October. We've got Primetime Live and Championship Wrestling from Hollywood returning here soon. I won't bust the news here. I'll leave that for Dave and the Merry Band to tell us all when we're coming back to town. And then I'll be heading shortly to back to NWA for their next pay-per-view and set of tapings as well. That'll be towards the end of the year. But I've got a couple things planned, a couple tours, if you will, planned here for this upcoming November that I'll hopefully get out of Southern California a little bit more.
Nice. I can feel it. It's like a snowball. I can feel you're getting this buzz. And you're rolling. You're getting bigger. Oh, I'm excited.
Thank you, man. Now's the time to capitalize on it. I feel it too. I feel the energy. I feel the confidence, and I'm ready. I'm in a position, and I'm ready to show everybody what the future of professional wrestling is going to look like.
And I agree. I think, you mentioned it, Summer of Punk. I lived through it in the Attitude Era. Damn the Man, I guess is the way I'll put it. The heel was cool. I think we're getting back to more of characters like yourself, characters like a Levi Shapiro that we brought up earlier, that type of old school character, the Barry Windhams. I think we're getting there, and it's exciting.
It is. I mean, wrestling, in my mind, much like everything, operates in a pendulum, right? The Attitude Era brought us so far here, and then it swung back to, the PG era, what they call the PG era, whatever. But there was great wrestling in the PG era, in my opinion. You know what I mean? It was a different type of wrestling, but it was great wrestling. And then it's swinging back to the other way where we have, the forbidden doors being broken down. We've got New Japan, AEW, we have now we have NWA right in that middle line, but you can kind of feel the wave coming back over to the other way.
Sorry about that. I agree. the pendulum is swinging, and the forbidden door aspect of stuff is just like, and just in yourself alone, going to all these places, doing local shows as well. It's a great time for people like myself, people like Vanessa, just to be a fan of wrestling, because I can be a fan of it all. I don't have to pick sides.
Exactly. No, and I was telling someone this the other day, just thinking of myself, who else do we have outside of, maybe Kratos and myself and one or two others that are doing New Japan, and NWA, right? That's quote unquote, call it the forbidden door. We've got NWA on AEW as well, and vice versa, AEW on NWA, right? Another forbidden door. And then of course AEW working with Impact, and Impact working with New Japan. So, you see it all over the place, and I think we're building to something huge.
Yeah.
I think there's going to be a blow off to all of this. And I don't know exactly what it looks like. I have an idea in my head. But as fans of the sport, and even me personally as a fan and as a wrestler, I love it. You know what I mean? It's what's best for the industry.
Exactly. Well, they did add a third night to Wrestle Kingdom, so I'll just throw that out there.
Well, who knows? I got to get my visa, and who knows will show up.
It's true. Maybe that third night will be in California. Who knows?
Who knows, right? That'd be great. That would be great.
Before I give you the mic to put yourself over, you've done a phenomenal job anyways, but you can let us know, where to find you, or you can bury anyone. I was listening to you on another podcast. I apologize to whoever it was. Oh, it was the Championship Wrestling from Hollywood podcast. That's what it was. And you mentioned dear friend of this show, Zicky Dice. And at the time, you wanted to wrestle him. You wanted to get your hands on him and that stupid fanny pack.
Right.
Do you still want to get your hands on the outlandish one?
Look, I have developed a list. There is a list that is being developed. Okay.
Click. Yeah, that's right.
To steal from one of our good friends that we had mentioned. Yeah. I have a list, and Zicky Dice, you're still on that list. We had one match, but we're not done. And I also have a few others on that list. Fred Rosser, we will wrestle again. And I will be looking forward to that one. And then another person on that list is Colby Carrino.
Oh,
that man is one of the best professional wrestlers right now on the independent circuit, and wrestling for NWA and wrestling for, again, all the major promotions. Yeah. And I'm telling you, him and I will go face to face. That's a match I'm looking forward to.
Oh, I want to see that.
I was saying, I use this moment to put myself over, but to call you guys out. Yeah. If you're on that list, let's find a place, name the day and the time. I'll be there.
There you go, Colby. Let's go. Zicky, Fred.
Right.
Ball's in their court now.
It is. I've tossed the challenge out. Let's go.
Phenomenal stuff. We're at the end of the show. Jordan, you've been phenomenal. I feel we could just go all night long. But we like to leave things on the table, leave our forbidden door open. We took it off. People can come and go as they see fit. And
you've left the forbidden door forever open.
Yeah.
It's like an old school saloon.
Yeah, it's like a saloon.
Right, exactly. Old school saloon. We gotta leave some more on the table so they keep coming back. That's the key.
That's the plan. That's what we're shooting for. But I am going to give you the mic now, and you've done a phenomenal job. You called out some people. You put yourself over. But the floor is yours. You can say anything you want. You can let us know where to find you. All that fun stuff. I will not interrupt.
Well, feel welcome to interrupt, but I am at Clear Like Water 1 on all social media platforms. I was lucky enough to secure, sorry, can't do at Golden Boy, that's already taken. But I was lucky enough to secure the same handle for all social media platforms. You can also pick up my t-shirt on newjapanshop.com. It's not this white and gold one, it is the black and gold one. So please feel welcome to help yourselves. As we mentioned already, we've got Raise the Bar. We've got New Japan Strong in Dallas. Come watch me on Fight TV, or come watch me in person. I don't care either way, but whatever you do, just tweet at me so I know you're there.
Awesome. Phenomenal. Great stuff. Well, Jordan, I'm going to let you go. You're welcome back anytime. Hopefully, maybe we'll get Colby Carrino on sometime, and we'll ask him face to face, or Zoom to Zoom, or whatever they kids say.
I say, Vanessa, work your magic. You should say, I heard the Golden Boys calling you out, so we've got to hear from Colby now.
Yeah, we'll get it done. It'll happen one of these days.
We'll get it done.
Yeah. Have yourself a wonderful night. You've been a pleasure to have on, and we'll talk to you soon.
You as well, man. You take care.
Yep. Later.
All right. See ya.
Bye. Awesome. Great stuff.